Hello children, today we are starting with the 7th unit of chemistry, that is equilibrium. Now first of all we need to discuss that what do we mean by equilibrium. These are some features of equilibrium. We will discuss all these features one by one in detail. First, the simple meaning of equilibrium. Equilibrium, as the name is suggesting, means equal, right? So whenever the rate of forward and backward process becomes equal. Suppose if I am going 4 steps forward and coming back 4 steps, means equilibrium stage. So at equilibrium stage, we cannot observe any change happening. But it doesn't mean that change is not taking place. Change is taking place, but as the rate of forward and backward process becomes same. So we cannot observe that change. So that stage is termed as equilibrium stage. So that's why we say it is dynamic in nature. So this is the first feature, when the rate of forward and backward process becomes equal. I'm using the term process because it can be a physical change or it can be a chemical change. We will discuss both types of equilibrium, physical as well as chemical. So in general we can say physical or chemical process when both rate becomes equal, that is equilibrium stage. Or we may explain in terms of molar concentration. We can say whenever the molar concentration of reactants and products becomes constant. Like these are the reactants, they are converting into product. So whenever the molar concentration of reactants and products becomes constant, children please be careful, I am using the term constant, not becomes equal. Equilibrium doesn't mean that the molar concentration of reactants and products it becomes equal, not necessary. Sometimes the concentration of reactant can be more, sometimes product can be more, or they can be equal. Any situation is possible. That's why we use the term the concentration becomes constant, means after reaching at this position, no change of concentration of reactants and products is observed. So that is the stage of equilibrium. Then we are saying this is dynamic in nature, means still the process is in continuation but seem to be static as no change is, apparent changes happening, I can say. That's why we are saying this is dynamic. Then we can say it can be attained in a closed container, especially whenever a gaseous species is involved. Then we cannot attain the equilibrium in an open container, because if the container is open, the gaseous particles, they will escape out. So there is no chance that we get equilibrium stage. That's why we are saying in most of the cases, equilibrium is attained in a closed container. Then all measurable properties of system becomes constant, like temperature, pressure, concentration, whatever is the measurable property of that system, at equilibrium stage it becomes constant, means no change should take place. If something will change, then we cannot get the equilibrium stage, equilibrium will be disturbed. Clear? So we will be discussing all this with the help of some examples also. And the last is magnitude of these properties will tell us the extent of reaction before reaching at equilibrium, means how fast or how slow is the process. So on the basis of extent of reaction, 3 types of equilibria are there. The first, like I have represented in this way. Reactant, children I am repeating, reactant is again the general representation of any chemical reaction. And so in first case, the forward reaction is fast as compared to backward. So before reaching equilibrium, if this is the situation, so we can say at equilibrium stage, most of the reactants are converted into products. So very less amount of reactants would be left at the end of reaction. Or we can say the reaction nearly reaches to completion. Because a reversible reaction can never ever reach to completion. Only irreversible reactions they reaches to completion, but not the reversible one. Yeah, but in such type of cases we can say it nearly reaches to completion. Then just talk about the second situation. In this case, we can see the forward reaction is very slow as compared to backward. So what happens at equilibrium stage? Most of the reactants, they remains unchanged because the decomposition of product is faster as compared to formation of product. So most of the reactants, they remains unchanged at the stage of equilibrium. And this is the third category on the basis of extent of reaction, where the molar concentration of reactants and products are almost same. Where concentrations are almost same. Yes, now we are discussing physical equilibrium first. Because as I told you, we will be talking about both physical and chemical equilibrium. So first, physical process means no chemical change is taking place. Only one state is converting into another state. That is physical equilibrium. So first example we are taking solid liquid equilibrium, where the solid form of matter remains in equilibrium with liquid form of matter. To understand this case, we can take a very simple example of conversion of ice molecules into liquid water and liquid water further into ice. But children, you must be thinking that how can we attain this equilibrium? Yes, we cannot attain this equilibrium at room temperature or in a ordinary container. If you remember in thermodynamics, we talked about three types of systems: open, closed and isolated. So for this equilibrium, we need isolated system. So take some amount of ice as well as some amount of water into an insulated flask. So when you take these into a thermos flask, now what happens? As the container is perfectly insulated, means no exchange of heat and matter is taking place for the surrounding. If no exchange of heat and matter is taking place in the surrounding, so ice and water, they remains in equilibrium. Whatever is the amount of ice converting into water, same amount of water is converted back into ice. So means the system remains in equilibrium. So we can attain this equilibrium only at 1 atmospheric pressure and 273 Kelvin. If you remember just now when we were discussing the characteristics of equilibrium, this was one of the characteristics, that at equilibrium all measurable properties of system becomes constant. If we try to change these properties, we cannot get equilibrium, means we are disturbing the equilibrium. So I think now this first type of physical equilibrium is clear. Yes, Peter. Now second type of equilibrium is liquid gas equilibrium. For this we are taking the example of conversion of liquid water into vapors, and vapors are converting back into liquid. Very simple experiment we can perform. Take a beaker with some amount of water. So now close this properly and note down the level of water. Suppose initially this is level of water, it is present up to this mark. Now when this one space is vacant, evacuated container is there. Initially you observe that when the vaporization process starts, due to evaporation, the water molecules, they are started converting into vapors. So due to this vaporization, initially slowly the level of water will start decreasing. But after some time you will observe, suppose this is the final level of water. After reaching at this level, now we cannot observe further decreasing in level of water. Why it is so? For initial decreasing of level, easily we can answer that as the liquid molecules, they are converting into vapors, that's why the level started decreasing. Means this forward process is taking place, conversion of liquid into vapors. And these vapors, they cannot escape out because the container is closed. So these vapors, they started collecting in this portion. But when this portion gets saturated with vapor molecules, due to collision between the vapor molecules, they will exchange their kinetic energy. So when one molecule transfers its kinetic energy to the second one, the energy of first gets decreased and it is converted back into liquid. That is condensation process. So we can say now condensation process also started. So initially what happens, rate of vaporization is fast but rate of condensation is very slow. That's why the decrease in level is taking place. But slowly by the passing of time, when this part gets saturated with vapors, then the vaporization and condensation process, they proceeds with same rate, and at this stage the level becomes constant, and at this equilibrium stage the pressure exerted by vapor molecules is termed as vapor pressure. This is vapor pressure. So I think children, this equilibrium stage is again clear, that how do we attain liquid gas equilibrium. Third type is solid gas equilibrium. And if you remember, conversion of solid on heating directly into gas is termed as sublimation process, right? So for this process, as it is a sublimation process, we need any sublimate compound. There are many sublimate compounds, like one is iodine. So examples of sublimate compound: ammonium chloride, naphthalene. You must have observed naphthalene bowls we keep in, generally during winters we keep in clothes, naphthalene bowls, hai na? So that is again an example of sublimate compound. Then you can take iodine. These are some examples of sublimate compounds. Why here preferably I have selected iodine? Because in this case, as it is a violet color, the color of iodine is violet. So due to color change, we can easily observe whether equilibrium stage is attained or not. So what we do for this? Take a jar and place some iodine pieces into this jar. You place some crystals of iodine here. And close the jar properly. Close it so that the vapors of iodine cannot escape out. Now initially we cannot observe any color here. Now slowly what happens, when the solid iodine started converting into vapors, we observe violet vapors in this gas jar. Now how do we come to know that equilibrium stage is attained? Means conversion of solid into vapors and vapors back into solid. Now it proceeds at same rate. How can we judge this? Very simple. Initially we can observe that intensity of color, it started increasing slowly. But a stage comes where the intensity of color becomes constant in this jar, and the point where intensity of color becomes constant, that is the equilibrium stage. So in this way, by taking any sublimate compound, you can observe this. But yes, if you take a colored substance, becomes very easy to observe the attainment of equilibrium. Yes, now our next is solid solution equilibrium. To understand this, we take the example of sugar solution. Start dissolving sugar into a fixed amount of water. Take a definite amount of water at a particular temperature, and now you start dissolving sugar into water and make a saturated solution of sugar. Saturated sugar solution. Saturation stage, I think everyone know, the stage where no more sugar can be dissolved. Now what happens here, even after reaching this saturation point, if still I am adding more sugar to this, what will you say? That the dissolution process is stopped or not? Our general observation is this, that yes, dissolution process is stopped. We cannot dissolve more amount of sugar into this. But my dear children, actually this is not the answer. Even at this point, we are dissolving sugar into water. But why it appears like we cannot dissolve? Because now the sugar holding capacity of water is no more. This is the saturation stage that water cannot hold more sugar. Now whatever the amount of sugar you are adding into water, same amount of sugar is released from this saturated solution. Means precipitation process is started at this point. So at equilibrium what happens? The rate of dissolution process, forward is dissolution, forward is dissolution. The rate of dissolution process becomes equal to rate of precipitation process. Means whatever the amount of sugar now we are trying to dissolve, same amount of sugar is precipitated from this saturated solution. Understood? Or seem to be confusing that how it happens that the solution is releasing sugar. But you must have read about precipitation reactions now. So it is a kind of precipitation process. Or even we can experimentally prove this that here the process is not stopped because we read that equilibrium is dynamic in nature. Still it is in continuation, but we cannot observe that change which is happening at this stage. Now how can we experiment this? Experimentally how can we prove that yes, still dissolution is going on but precipitation is also started? Very simple. Take now after this stage when the saturated sugar solution is ready and we observe that we cannot dissolve the sugar. When we experience this stage, at this point add some amount of radioactive sugar into this saturated sugar solution. So when we add some amount of radioactive sugar, before this we took ordinary sugar, now we are adding radioactive sugar. So what happens? Same, now the radioactive sugar started settling down. After this, take out some solution, saturated solution from this container and just check whether the solution is radioactive or non-radioactive in nature. If the solution comes non-radioactive, it means the dissolution process is stopped. Because after saturation point, we are adding radioactive sugar. So if the process is stopped, it means this solution should be non-radioactive in nature. But it's not like this. Actually what happens, when we test this solution for radioactivity, we find that the solution is radioactive in nature. As solution is radioactive in nature, it proves that even after this saturation stage, sugar is getting dissolved into this, but same amount of sugar is precipitated. That's why it seemed like that the process is stopped. So this was the third kind of physical equilibrium. And the last physical equilibrium which we are discussing is gas solution equilibrium, where the gas remains in equilibrium with its aqueous form. For this, the very good example we can take is carbonated drinks. Carbonated drinks. With the help of this example, we can easily understand this equilibrium. What happens in carbonated drinks? CO2 in gaseous state remains in equilibrium with its aqueous form. This is the reason under pressure CO2 is dissolved here into aqueous medium. So as soon as you open the bottle of a carbonated drink, what happens? The gas fizzes out at a very fast rate. Why the gas fizzes out? Because that was dissolved under a specific pressure. So this equilibrium was maintained at that particular pressure. If we disturb any condition, this was one of the characteristics of equilibrium. Remember that at equilibrium stage, measurable properties of system becomes constant. If we try to disturb these properties, equilibrium will get disturbed. So when we open that soda water bottle or any aerated drink bottle, we are disturbing that equilibrium condition. So due to that, the gas fizzes out. after some time that fizzing out process is stopped. Why? Because now again at that pressure, that atmospheric pressure, equilibrium stage is established between gaseous form and aqueous form. That's why we can say the concentration becomes constant at this stage. And this equilibria is further explained by Henry's law. Henry's law. According to Henry's law, the dissolved amount of gas in a specific amount of solvent at a particular temperature is directly proportional to the pressure. More you apply the pressure, more will be the dissolved amount of gas that we experienced in this example. After physical equilibrium, now we start equilibrium chemical process. First condition to attain equilibrium in chemical process is that the process should be reversible. In irreversible reaction, this attainment is not possible. So, we are taking general case first, then we will discuss few reactions, reactants in a reversible process converted into product. So, as we are saying, when reactants they are converting into product, initially the concentration of reactant starts decreasing. So, if we plot a graph time with concentration, so as we are saying, initially the concentration of reactants decreases and that of product started increasing. So, this is slowly decreases, and we know at equilibrium stage the molar concentration becomes constant. So, in this way it is. This is the graph for reactants because a continuous decrease of concentration with time, then product continuous increase and then it becomes constant. And when it becomes constant, that is the equilibrium stage. So, with this we can easily tell that initially what this graph is representing, what this is increase in concentration by the passing of time. So, this is for products. Decrease in concentration by the passing of time. So, this is for reactant, and this is the equilibrium stage where no more change in concentration is taking place. So, this is equilibrium stage. No more change in concentration, it becomes constant. So, here you can also, one thing also it's clear here that the concentration is becoming constant in both the cases, not equal. As we discussed in beginning that at equilibrium stage, concentration of reactants and products, we never say that it becomes equal. We say it becomes constant. Like here, these two concentrations are not equal, but yes, they are constant. I think this is clear with the help of this graph. Now take some chemical reactions, reversible reactions where we can experience these kind of equilibria like formation of ammonia and 2 plus 3H2 gives 2NH3, a reversible process, or H2 plus I2 gives 2HI. Decomposition of calcium carbonate into calcium oxide and CO2. So, these are some reversible cases where we can easily experience the attainment of equilibrium. But yes, the condition is very simple. Container should be closed because you can see the gaseous species are involved. They will escape out if you will take an open container. Clear, children? How we explain equilibria in case of chemical process. Yes, now with the help of this graph, children, we are discussing one more feature of equilibria. Just take the example of reaction between hydrogen and iodine, 2HN. Now, just try to recall the features of equilibria which we discussed in the beginning of this lecture. There was one feature that equilibria can be attained from any direction. Means we can attain it from forward direction as well as from backward direction. So, with the help of this graph, we are proving that if you are starting the reaction with hydrogen and iodine, that we are taking a mixture of hydrogen and iodine. So, this mixture is converting into hydrogen iodide. This is attainment from forward direction. But we can attain this even in backward direction, that we can start the experiment with the help of hydrogen iodide. That initially I am taking HA as a reactant, slowly it decomposes into hydrogen and iodine, and then the backward reaction starts. Clear? So how this graph is showing this feature, that as you know, this is the decrease in concentration. We know by the passing of time, concentration of reactant decreases. Means this graph is for hydrogen and iodine. So what we are taking here, hydrogen and iodine. Slowly decreases, reaches at a fixed value. Clear? So that is the equilibrium stage. But this portion, this is the increase in concentration, and we know the concentration of product increases by the passing of time. So this part shows HI. Means here this is the equilibrium stage where the concentration of reactants and products becoming constant. So here we are attaining this equilibrium from forward direction, that is by reaction of hydrogen and iodine. Because here hydrogen and iodine, it works as a reactant due to decrease in concentration, HI as a product due to increase in concentration. Now just take this graph. Here this is the decrease in concentration, and decreasing concentration is for reactants. So in this case HI is working as a reactant because here its concentration is decreases. So here HI behaves like a reactant. And in this portion, increase in concentration is observed, means hydrogen and iodine, they are products in this portion. And at this point again equilibrium is attained. So it shows, this is a very beautiful example where graphically we are representing that how equilibrium can be attained from forward as well as from backward direction. Yes, the next topic is law of chemical equilibrium and equilibrium constant. So before discussing about law of chemical equilibrium, we will talk about law of mass action. To understand this law of mass action, let us take a general reaction. General reversible reaction. Yes, because for equilibrium in irreversible we cannot explain anything, because this is the first condition for equilibrium, reaction should be reversible. So let us take this general reaction, A plus B are the reactants and C plus D, these are the products. And to balance this equation, suppose we are using these moles to balance this equation. These are the number of moles for the balanced equation. So according to law of mass action, I am applying this law here for this particular chemical reaction. According to this law, rate of reaction, this is the symbol for rate of reaction. Rate of reaction is directly proportional to the product of molar concentration of reactants. Yes children, I am repeating this statement. Just try to apply here on this equation. Rate of reaction, R is the symbol for rate of reaction, is directly proportional. Rate of reaction is directly proportional to what? Product of molar concentration of reactants raised to their stoichiometric coefficients in balanced equation. So A raised to the power this small a and B raised to the power this small b. This is the definition of law of mass action. Once again I am telling, rate of reaction is directly proportional to the product of molar concentration of reactants raised to their stoichiometric coefficients present in balanced chemical equation. This is law of mass action. And molar concentration is always written in square bracket. Like if I want to write the molar concentration of A, I should write in this way. This kind of representation is the representation of molar concentration of whether reactant or product. Earlierly, this molar concentration was also termed as active mass. But now this active mass term is replaced by molar concentration term. So this is for the forward reaction. So I should write this is the rate of forward reaction. Because A and B are the reactants for forward reaction. Similarly, I can write for rate of backward reaction. The reactants for backward reaction are C and D. So molar concentration of C multiplied by molar concentration of D raised to the power their coefficients of balanced equation C and D. So this is the representation of law of mass action for forward as well as for backward. If we remove the sign of proportionality, we would be having a constant Kf for forward reaction multiplied by concentration, molar concentration of A and B. Similarly, when I remove this sign of proportionality, a constant for backward reaction, I am representing it as Kb multiplied by C and D raised to the power their coefficients. So this is a representation of law of mass action for this general case. Now what happens at equilibrium? At equilibrium, we know at equilibrium stage, rate of forward reaction becomes equal to that of backward. So I should write rate of forward becomes equal to rate of backward. Now substitute the values of Rf and Rb from these two equations. Let us, this is first equation, this is second equation. So substitute these values here. So it is equal to Kf A into B equals to Kb C into D, right? So from here I can write Kf divided by Kb equals to molar concentration of C into D raised to the power their coefficients divided by molar concentration of A and B raised to the power their coefficients. And the ratio of these two constants, again it's a constant, we write it as Kc, equilibrium constant. So formula of equilibrium constant, this is the formula to calculate the value of equilibrium constant for any given equilibrium stage. Kc, equilibrium constant. So how do we define this equilibrium constant? On the basis of this formula, you can easily define equilibrium constant. C and D are the molar concentration of products. AB are the molar concentration of reactants. So how do we define Kc or equilibrium constant? That this is the ratio of product of molar concentration of products to that of reactants, each one raised to their stoichiometric coefficients in balanced chemical equation. So this is the definition of equilibrium constant. Similarly, we can write expression for Kp for the same reaction. Kp means equilibrium constant in terms of pressure. So in Kc, here we take the molar concentration of products divided by molar concentration of reactants. So in this case, we take the pressure of C raised to the power coefficient into pressure of D raised to the power this coefficient divided by pressure of A into pressure of B. So this is the expression of equilibrium constant in terms of pressure. I think there is no problem in this case. Now we discuss the relation between Kp and Kc. To derive this relation, first we take the relation of pressure and concentration. We know PV equals to nRT or P equals to N by V RT. N by V is the symbol of molar concentration. I am writing capital C to avoid any confusion with the C, that is reactant, or just change the chemical equation to avoid any confusion. I can take A plus B gives X plus Y. To avoid that confusion of C symbol, A A and B are these coefficients, X and Y are the coefficients. So same you can make a change here. Pressure of X, pressure of Y raised to the power X and Y. Yeah children, clear why I have changed that C? Because in chemistry for molar concentration we are using the symbol C. So to avoid any confusion of whether the C is the symbol of product or that of concentration, I have replaced that C and D by X and Y. So same you can do. So N by V is molar concentration, C RT. So P equals to CRT. Substitute this value of pressure into this equation. Because we know P equals to CRT, so Kp can be written as Kp equals to, this is pressure of X, so we may write concentration of X into RT. At the place of this Px, we may write concentration of X into RT raised to the power X multiplied by, at the place of Py, I may write concentration of Y into RT. Concentration of Y into RT raised to the power Y divided by concentration of ART raised to the power A, concentration of BRT raised to the power B. Further solve this, take RT common. So we may write Kp equals to Cx raised to the power X into Cy raised to the power Y divided by Ca and Cb RT raised to the power X plus Y minus A plus B. Now compare this expression with the expression of Kc. This is the formula for Kc. Ratio of molar concentration of products to that of reactants, each one raised to the power their coefficients of balanced equation. So at the place of this we may write Kc. So from here Kp comes equals to Kc into RT raised to the power X plus Y. These are the number of moles of products, minus A plus B are the number of moles of reactants. So I may write Np minus Nr, or Kp equals to Kc RT raised to the power difference of number of moles that we will be representing by delta N. So this is the relationship between Kp and Kc, that Kp is equal to Kc RT raised to the power delta N. Yeah, now we are doing this question based on the concept of Kp and Kc. Here it is given equilibrium concentrations of nitrogen, hydrogen and ammonia. These three equilibrium concentrations are given. At this specific temperature, calculate Kc and Kp for this equation. So to calculate the value of Kc, first we write the formula of Kc as we derive from law of mass action. We know the formula of Kc, this is the ratio of molar concentration of products to that of reactants raised to the power their coefficients. So what are the products here? Ammonia. First we balance it, N2 plus 3H2 gives 2NH3. Children, please remember, never ever write the formula for KPAC for unbalanced equation. So this is the products of the reaction are NH3. So molar concentration of NH3 raised to the power 2 divided by molar concentration of reactants nitrogen raised to the power 1 into hydrogen raised to the power 3. So this is the formula of Kc. Now we substitute the values here. Molar concentration of ammonia 1.2 into 10 raised power minus 2 divided by nitrogen, concentration of nitrogen 1.5 10 raised power minus 2 multiplied by for hydrogen, that is 3 into 10 to the power minus 2 cube. By solving this, you will get the value of Kc. After calculating Kc, can you tell now how do we find Kp? Yes, by using the relation of Kp and Kc. So the relation of Kp and Kc, Kp equals to Kc RT raised to the power delta N. So Kc you will calculate from here. So we substitute the value of Kc from this first part. R, we know 0.0821 liter atmosphere per Kelvin per mole into temperature given 500. Delta N, from here we can calculate, that is number of moles of product minus number of moles of reactants. Number of moles of products 2, reactants 3 plus 1 4, so this is minus 2. Solve this, it will give you the value of Kp.